Oh, I'm a bit bright. Let's move this round. Hello. Fantastic. Right, we're going live. I always wait a moment just to check. Now, unfortunately, I had. Let's check. There we go. I had a slight delay to set up because my youngest daughter lost her favourite teddy bear. I spent 10 minutes looking for it. It was under the pillow next to her head. So I'm not quite as set up as I wanted, but let me show you what I've got. And then I'm going to set up my second camera in a moment so you can see me. And also, I already see that John is here in the chat. Fantastic. Hi, John. Ray told me that you might be on because you've built, I think, did he say 5 of Ray's guitars? 5 of Ray's guitars. Let me show you what I've got, and then I will talk about what I'm going to do today. So essentially, hey Ray, glad you're here too. Oh no, Owen's here as well, not Ray. Yes, Vigo's joining me. Behind me. He overlooks everything I do in my workshop at the moment. As I might show you later, I might give you a quick tour later of what I'm doing for my Kickstarter campaign, which has just been funded, which is very, very exciting. I sort of did it as the 10th year of Devil and Sons, tried something new and it funded. What a brilliant way to end the year. But look here, I have got parts of a guitar that I printed for Ray. I did a time lapse of the printing, which I wanted to share with you now. Unfortunately, I'm on a Chromebook and it's not compatible with the time-lapse AVI files that my Bamboo Lab prints, which is very annoying. John's made 7 of Ray's guitars. So if people don't know, I've left a link in the description to this video to Ray of Tasmaniak Guitars. He is a regular member on the Guitar Builders Collective chat podcast I host. Owen, who's in the chat, was on recently. Barry, fantastic. Barry has just got his ribbon guitar that his mate printed. The ribbon guitar is essentially one of Ray's guitars that he was making anyway, but has linked to the Jurg's Cup, the competition that we run on the Guitar Builders Collective in honor of Jürgen Zoller, who passed away, I think it was nearly 2 years ago now, and a year and a half, of leukemia. Now, Ray is a leukemia survivor, and he designed a 3D guitar that is the cancer ribbon, and he gives it away for free. Anyone can download it and print it off. He encourages you to print it off in the different colors that represent different types of cancers in memory of different people, in honor of your own experiences. It's absolutely fantastic. You can find that through the links in my description. There's links to Ray's site where you can buy his 3D prints, which are pretty cheap, but that one is a free one. Anyway, I'm doing this today because we've had in the planning for a number of months on the Guitar Builders Collective Chat podcast the idea of doing a deep dive into 3D printing, which is actually happening tomorrow morning at my time, 9 a.m. I think there's a link to that in the description as well. And I wanted to have a guitar that I printed myself to experiment with it. Now, I was going to get a friend to print it, but it's just finished there. I bought a new Bamboo Lab printer on Ray's advice. It's just finished a print that I was working on. So I printed my own one, and it is a Ray's design based on the Meteora by Fender. Now, I absolutely love the Meteora design. It is possibly my favorite modern guitar shape. It is possibly my favorite guitar shape next to the Iceman. I think it looks super cool. When I first saw it, it was part of the Paranormal series that Fender did, where they were taking different guitar types and mixing them up together. So a Strat with a bit of a telly on it, etc., etc. The Meteora was there, I think, a shape they already had, but quite recent at the time. But on the version I saw, they put a telly kind of setup on it. So it had telly bridge, telly pickups, telly scratch plate, and that's what Ray's made for me. You'll see what it looks like in a moment when I printed it. I printed it in my favorite color, which is teal. I'm gradually printing things for my workshop, storage things, basically, based on the fact that I'm obsessed with the printer now. I've got it in teal, in purple, and in orange, which is my weird color scheme that I used to have in here. You'll see, if I show you around later, that you can't see much of my original color scheme now because I've got so many storage components and things up, and Vigo hanging around getting in the way. Oh, right, I'm a bit flustered by the late start. So what I'm just going to do for one moment, if you don't mind, is log in on my phone so you can see better on two cameras. That was, like I said, that's what I planned to do with my setup. But I was busy looking for Murphy. What is Murphy? It's called a Misfitten. Is the range of toys that it came with, that it's part of. They look like big, sort of fluffy stuffed cats. Yeah, my daughter's got a few of them, but Murphy is her favourite. She's only 3. Until recently, she would chew on it a lot, so it gets very wet, and it gets washed 3 times a week on a very hot wash with a pre-wash, a sort of extra rinse at the end, and various other things that go on to give it a really intense wash to make sure it's clean. Right, I'm just logging in. My plan is I'm going to have this camera here that I can look into, and you'll be able to see. Oh, hey, John. Oh, no, it shouldn't be a problem. Thank you for the offer. It shouldn't be a problem me getting it into into the right format. I just didn't have a chance. Hold on. I've just got to get my headphones in here so I don't have any sound. So much for planning to come in early, but thank you. I've got this new setup. There we go. No. Is that working? I've got this new setup that I'm using for my live streams, and I sort of thought I had it down, but it does involve setting things up. So there we go. I can show this on stream. I just need to switch my camera. Video. This is so boring for you all. The joy of live stream. Tomorrow's live stream will be much more organized. There we go. I'll put it on screen now. There we are. And I will now put this one back, and thank you for your audio is gone. Audio is gone. Hold on. All right, my audio's back. Hello, is it back? I think it's back. If someone in the chat can let me know it's back, I apologise. Like I said, I got my setup, I thought, down to a T, but it does involve actually setting things up. And Right, can you hear me now, people? I'm so glad people were there in the chat, because if people weren't there in the chat, I'd be basically talking and no one would know I was there. It looks like my vocal's back. Yes, so what happened was the mic I was using, the batteries run out. I hope this live stream goes smooth from now on. Hopefully it will. Right, back to where we were. What I'm going to do is potentially edit the beginning of this live stream out. So we're just here with me. So hello, welcome to the live stream. Thank you, those of you who have been in the chat for a while. I've had a few issues, but it's all working now. I am here with the guitar that Ray from Tasmaniak Guitars sent me the design for, that I printed up. I've got all the bits here. It's like a jigsaw. I'm going to talk about how it fits together when I put it together in a minute. Here I've got the plastic weld I'm going to use. Now, this is a new bottle, but it's the same weld I've used before on other things. I think it's quite good. Ray thinks it should do the trick. Unfortunately, the plastic weld he recommends I can't get in this country, in the UK, without paying ridiculous import charges. So this cost me £20, or just under £20, including shipping. The one Ray recommended was over £50 for a bottle about the same size as this, which seems ridiculous. So I'm going to use that to weld things together. It does fit together like a jigsaw, but Ray says you really need to weld everything together. Plus, it's in two halves. So what Ray does with his designs, I've noticed, which is different to other designs, and something we're 100% going to talk about in tomorrow's live stream on the Guitar Builders Collective, when we go in depth into 3D printing, and particularly focusing on printing once you have the file. We're not talking about design, we're talking about printing and all the elements in it. Ray seems to do his in two halves, which seems quite unique. Everyone else I've seen does them in thicker parts, a thicker jigsaw that all fits together, or in a way that sort of tessellates together, like Mark, who's also going to be on the stream, like he does. So Ray reckons his strength comes from the walls on his. Now, he had recommended print settings for his, but I've just got the printer. It's a Bamboo Lab P1S, and what I wanted to do was just do a really quick print. So I've done it on the standard setting, print file setting, which isn't as brilliant as or strong necessarily as the settings Ray suggested, but it meant that basically I printed all of the teal stuff in one day, all of the white stuff in one day, and but not even a whole day. It was pretty quick. And if I put it on the different setting, it would have been longer. I'm doing this as an experiment. Hey, Aaron, welcome. This is PLA. This is PLA Basic from Bamboo Lab. It's not actually what Ray recommended, but it's what I had. So I'm giving it a go. And there's one other reason I haven't mentioned yet, which is why I'm giving it a go. I'm currently writing a book on how to customize electric guitars, particularly focusing on paint finishing. And I'm very much aware that if this book's going to have longevity, it's got to cover a range of techniques. I'm talking about classic and modern techniques. And one thing I'm keen on is looking at how we can paint 3D printed guitars to get different types of finishes on them. Now, I very much appreciate with Ray's designs. If you haven't seen them yet, I've got links in the description for Ray's designs. Hey, Ray's in the chat himself. Ray, with your designs, one thing I really love is the way on your tops you often have really intricate designs, which are part of the way the sort this out. Part of the way the design works, the print works. So it prints in different patterns that you piece together, and that kind of covers the way everything's fitted together, but looks awesome. What I want to do with this simple print, which I'm not sure how well you can see it on here, it's got those layer marks because I did quite big layers on it. I want to see how easy it is to paint, fill, do something to this to give it a different finish. So this was a very basic print. I'm going to do a print at Ray's recommended settings as well, which is a guitar, which might end up as a guitar I keep as it is, but potentially it's just another one to experiment on with a different finish for this book. Right, so I'm going to get on with gluing it in one moment. Just to say, I've become very aware that I use a lot of very toxic things. So I often wear my mask, but I might not wear my mask so I can chat while I'm doing it. 2050 it sticks. Paint is rough, 50/50 paint stick. Yeah, so John in the chat says he's printed 7 of Ray's guitars. Yes, John. So one thing I want to do is find out what sort of paint works and how to get it to work with the different types of printing filament. Now, I found some particular type of paint, acrylic-based paint, which is spray on, where there's an adhesion promoter that should help it, but it's all experimenting. But then that's why I want to experiment with it, so I have a section in the book all about it. Now, I'm one thing short, which is my paintbrushes. So I'm just going to walk my camera around so you can see a bit of my workshop when I do it. Now, it's not as quick as it should be on here, but I'm going to change it to this camera. So you can just see around my workshop. It's a bit of a mess at the moment. And one reason it's a mess is I've kind of set it up to take photos as I'm working on loads and loads of guitars for the book. So I've got lots of these templates I made just to do paint staining tests on, to demonstrate staining tests before I go on to actual bodies, because the basic cost of writing the book is already going up quite a lot, and buying lots of bodies would be ridiculous. Sorry, I just realised that as I walked away then, because my mic stopped working, I'm using now the mic from my camera here, you wouldn't have heard that very well. But what I was saying was, I've got a lot of stuff in my workshop because I'm painting lots of demos for the book. So Owen's talking about high build primers. Actually, the paint that I like to use on guitars as a primer sometimes, it's an acrylic based primer, but I think is brilliant, and there's a few versions of it, is by High Coat, who's a British based or UK based supplier of paints or maker of paints for cars, for bodywork. They have a special range called the Body Shop range, car body shop range, which I think are very good quality. And one of the things that makes them really good quality is the fact that they are in great cans with great nozzles. So not just is the paint good quality, but the way it sprays and finishes is excellent. So they also do clear coat, which I use a lot of. I think they're the ones I'm going to experiment with. They do the adhesion promotion as well. Right. I am going to start. So I'm going to turn my camera to the main one here so you can see what I'm doing. I might have to angle it a bit more so you can see my workspace. Basically, this is my desk, but it has this fold out bit that I often lean on. It's quite good because I get my legs under it when I'm working. I'm going to start just by, well, we've got John and maybe Ray still in the chat. I was going to start with the back of the guitar, the white pieces, and piece them together first. That seemed logical because I've not done it before, and it seemed to make sense to start with something that wasn't visible as much. But like I said, this is an experiment, my first one, so I'm not too worried if it goes a bit wrong. But yeah, if you've got a suggestion of a better way to do it, let me know. But let's piece it together. I was slightly tempted to do this in the week. Ray said that one of the things about printing all the parts out is you'll just be too keen to just get it assembled together, but I wanted to wait till today. I was also quite keen to get my girls involved in printing it, assembling it. So I'm not going to fully push it together, just going to get it roughly in place. Now, my use of this adhesion primer weld before was I just basically used to put it in the gaps and used to seep in, it used to suck into the gaps. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do or if I should paint the surface and then push it together. John's recommending starting with the back as well. I have lots of vices. John, have you got a suggestion? Oh, is that for holding the two halves together? Don't worry, I've got all of that up here, just out of shot. You'll see that in a minute. I've this desk that I'm working on is the desk where I often assemble things. It's where I put parts of guitars together, but it's also where I do a lot of the work when I'm not doing very messy cutting, because I do that at that end where my extractors are and stuff, but where I'm doing more hand cutting based stuff. And I have all these tiny clamps here, which are really useful for holding things together as I work. Do the surface, then wipe the excess. Perfect. Let's just get all the bits together. Thank you, John. I'm glad you're here. I don't know how long this will take, so I don't know how long people will want to stay around. Oh, the other great thing about doing it like I did with the rough print, you know, the not great quality print first, is that I learned a few things as I was going along. So some of these pieces I printed one way and some I printed the other, which means that some of them on this surface have got the top surface of the print, so you can see the lines on it, and some of them have got the bed surface, so you've got that texture on it. Absolutely my mistake. Then I flipped it round so that the top of the guitar was all pointing in one direction. I was assuming I'd flipped it so that all the top surfaces of the guitar had that lovely texture of the bass on it, but I stupidly flipped it all so it was all pointing upwards. But doesn't matter, like I said, I might paint over it. Right, so this is potentially how I'm going to go. John reckons start with the spine and work out. I've got my plastic weld here, I've got my brushes. I'm going to get something else. Which is some kitchen roll to wipe some stuff up with. Like I said, I should really be wearing a mask, but never mind. If you're doing it at home, wear a mask. I wear a mask which is the ABEK1 filter, which I use for everything I wear, everything I work on, because it's one of the best filters you can get. Although some people are now telling me that some of the paints I use don't work, or this filter doesn't really work with them, but I don't think that's 100% the case. But as with everything, you know, you can't be completely safe. Probably the safest way you can be completely safe is by having one of those all-in-one suits with its own air system filtered into it, which I know a few people I know use. Mark from Hilditch Guitars does, for example. He was a guest on the Guitar Bros Collective podcast a while ago. Right. If I'd got here earlier, what I might have done was start off my camera that I also have to go above to do a time lapse, but that would do that on my next build. John's saying a lot of his pieces are a bit smaller when he works on them. I wonder if these are bigger because of the shape of the guitar or the way it's finished. That's a good question for me to ask Ray tomorrow, to see if there's a reason why he makes them in certain sizes. Like I said, tomorrow's not so much about the designing and the CAD of the guitar making, but one thing it is about is printing, and choices of how you divide the guitar up to print are quite important. So that size will make a difference. I've got one other thing I need. Hold on. I need some pliers for the support. Now, I don't know if this is going to work, but a trick that I got from Adam Savage when he was talking about kit bashing, as some of you will know, I use kit bashing in my guitar sometimes, is he puts his plastic weld into an upturned tin can. Just to hold a little bit at a time. Oh, so. Oh, yes, of course. Of course, John's just said in the chat, the reason his pieces are smaller is he's printing on a mini printer. And I've got the Bamboo Lab P1S, which I think is a reasonably large size compared to their home printer bases. So it probably has got more space to print larger pieces. That would make sense. Right, let's just see how well it fits. So you can see it just slots together like that. Really straightforward, really easy. What I might do is go back over this video and put timestamps in for anyone that's watching, so you can jump along with the bits. So right, here's the middle. Here's the top horn. the bottom horn. Call it the horn. I don't know if it's really a horn. Aaron, who was in the chat a minute ago, just before work, is a regular on the Guitar Brewers Collective. He was one of the original hosts along with me. But because, like Ray, he's based in Australia, he can't be on every week at the time we do it. Basically, we can't get a time that fits all the time zones for the different people that we have on. Now everyone's clocks have changed, so it's easier that we do once a month, which suits him and Ray in Australia. The rest of the time suits the rest of the world, really. But he started doing a lot of 3D printing recently. So what I can see here, obviously, is when I'm putting things together, I mean, I'm literally going to say the obvious things here, but it's my first time doing it, so I might as well. When I'm putting things together, if I want to get it really flat, I need a really flat surface to work on. So this surface is pretty flat. I cleaned it recently. I'm using this messy looking surface for backdrop for some of my photos for the book. That seems right. Let's put a little bit of extra in. See if it seeps through the gaps. This may be something I regret because maybe it will affect the surface. I don't know. If I start getting high, I think possibly that's not a good idea because I can see it affecting the surface. So Barry's got a question for Ray. Ray's really open to things if you message him direct about the guitar that Barry's got not having all the parts for it, which obviously is a pain. So I'll get him to check. But yeah, he's really good. What Ray seems to do if you buy files from him is you can have a chat with him and he can set up a print file for your printer. Yeah, look, here you can see these were made. So this surface was on the bed when it printed. And on this one, this was on the bed, so these don't quite match, but like I said, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Yeah, and John's just confirmed I don't want to put any on there because it does melt the surface, which means the weld's working. I wondered if that would help it seep into the gaps, but I don't really want to do that. Right, so let's paint the surfaces here. And as John said, you want to paint the surfaces that aren't visible. Now, I actually should read up on this. I wonder if it works like a contact cement, where if you do both surfaces, so both surfaces are tacky, both surfaces have started to melt, then they will adhere better to each other than if you just put it on one surface. Like some other glues. Some other adhesives work on one surface, some work on both. Some you put the glue on, let it sort of, not wick in, but you know, affect the surface, and then you come back later and put a second coat on before attaching them together. So the first one's like a primer coat almost. I mean, I can feel it's pretty flat. And what I guess I should check, so this is great, I'm doing this because it gives me questions to ask tomorrow for assembling, for the chat tomorrow that we're doing, the deep dive into 3D printing, is how does this actually work? Like, I'm putting the weld on, it's welding together. Is there another solvent I can use for when there's any spills or any sticky bits here to clean it up with? Right, John says one surface is fine. If it's like side grip, then it's very adhesive. Side grip is the adhesive, was the weld that Ray recommended that cost a lot of money for me to import. Yeah, look, what's happening where it's leaking through is it's picking up some of the stain from the table. That's obviously a little bit of the weld has gone through there, so the solvent's picking up a bit of the table. So that makes me think now I don't want to be flipping it around like I was about to do, because I don't really want to get the surface here with spots that where the weld's leaked through and it's picking up the varnish. But at the same time, like I said, it's just an experiment and I'm going to be painting over it all. So I'm going to lift it up like this. I don't mind this surface here getting any of the weld on it because it's not going to be seen because it's between the two surfaces. And now one thing I would say is I printed this in PLA Basic. I printed it at the standard setting, which is not the setting necessarily that Ray recommended, and it feels quite light to me. Ray was saying some of the guitars can feel quite heavy, so I reckon that must be because of the settings I've got with the infill setting and the thickness of the walls, maybe. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the choice of materials. While I'm here, there's a little bit that needs to come out. Don't know why that bit needs to come out. I will find out when I put it together. It seems to be like the wire that feeds through to the pickup, but I don't know why it wouldn't be channeled all the way through. Anyway, we'll see. Yeah, so John said, did I 15% infill? I need to double check what the standard settings are on the Bamboo printer, but I think it is 15%. I think the difference between the basic settings on it are the size of the layers more than the infill, actually. Now I think about it. So what I should say is I have used the Bamboo Lab for 1 week before getting this. I used it quite a lot, which was the first week I got it, and I only printed things through Bamboo Lab's software, makerspace thing. I forgot what it's called, Maker's World, which meant that all the files I was printing had their own print files ready for my printer, so I didn't have to set anything up. I just had to press a button, and then I printed. Hello? Okay, yeah. So sorry, what just happened then is when I banged the table really hard to push the bits together. I knocked all the wires loose that connect my camera, this above camera, to the laptop. And because my mic battery ran out, I ended up having to use the mic from this camera here. So when that came loose, my mic went as well. Yeah. So what I was going to say is I have printed just from Bamboo Labs Makerspace, where everything that I downloaded, or I didn't even have to download, just press a button, all the print files were already set up. I didn't have to do anything. And then other than that, I printed Mark Katerra's fret holder file, and that I bought, and I had to set that up in the printer, but that was my first time doing it, and all I had to do was press one button and it printed it. And then I printed a few skulls on the project I'm working with Ben from Battle Plan Harmonica Accessories, where we're designing mics clips that look like skulls, and I've been printing a few of them, and with those I've been experimenting more with print settings and infill and stuff like that. But otherwise I haven't really done anything where I've had to do any setup. Now what Ray sent me with the files, and he did send me the settings, but like I said, I didn't follow them. I just pressed the basic Bamboo Lab setup, standard setup, and it was brilliant. But what he can do, and what he seems to do for anyone that buys from him, is he gives you a whole breakdown of what settings you should use on which different types of printer, and he seems very open to chatting with you to explain what settings you might need on your particular printer. and also customizing the print file if needed. Yeah, so what I would say is, like I said, I made the mistake of printing the surfaces in different ways. So this one, which is just the top of the print, whereas this one was the bed, they feel and look different, which isn't ideal if I'm going forward. If I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it all correctly. And in fact, on this one, the bed side is more transparent. It must be thinner than the top side, which seems to be thicker and less transparent, and I prefer that more. So that might be something I talk to Ray about. Do I need more layers on the bottom side to get it to be a bit thicker so you can't see the grid work of the infill? So I'm really glad I'm doing this to help me understand it. If you are interested in joining the live stream tomorrow or watching it after the fact, I've linked that below. But we've also done, John's reckoning, probably 3 walls on the bottom. Oh, Ray's there as well, yeah. Physical persuasion always helps. I'm loving doing this, by the way, Ray. I might be converted to make, I'm definitely going to make more anyway. More of this same one, more prints to experiment with. Yeah, so Ray's been on the show before when we were just focusing on him. Obviously, he's now a regular host, but he's been on the show before and we're just focusing on him and what he does. He's also been on the show when he was talking about what he called the plastic tone wood debate, based on some experiments he'd done. So those 2 episodes I put into a playlist, which is all about 3D printing from the Guitar Builders Collective chats. And that playlist also includes Ben, who I just mentioned from Battle Plan Harmonica Accessories, who is the first person we really got on to talk properly about 3D printing. And his episode really gives a very basic breakdown for total beginners of how 3D printing works. Whereas everything we've done with Ray is a little bit more advanced. What we're doing tomorrow is even more advanced. I've also put in that playlist Jack from JC Guitars, who's also on with us tomorrow. We didn't talk a lot about 3D printing with him. We did a little bit with jigs, but we talked a lot about CAD because he does a lot of CNC and CAD work. So that still is relevant. And as we've been discussing in our private chats, the people that are coming on tomorrow, I think we're going to have a future episode all about CAD and design work. Right, that looks awesome. Yeah, I definitely prefer the finish that wasn't the bed surface. I tell you what would be great is I tell you what would be great is I definitely want to at some point print one of Ray's ones where he does those interesting surfaces which are patterned that in effect cover all of the joins. I think they look so cool and I'd love to see how that works. Anyway, right. So I guess, Ray, John in the chat, best thing to do now is assemble the front and then put them together. Yeah, as John said, the bed surface with extra walls or layers will improve how good it looks. Like I said, I did it on the really basic setting. In the really basic setting, that doesn't handle the slopes so well because the walls are quite thick. Basically, the way it's described on the Bamboo settings is how good it's going to look with the final print. So the basic setting, it just says you're going to see lots of layers. And then as you go through the different settings, it says you'll see a bit of layers or you won't see any layers. It just describes it based on the layer visibility. Right, let's go on and do this side. John's starting at the neck. So one thing I've noticed, because I've already tested this, is I had a few necks. One fits perfectly, and the one I'm going to use, is like a millimetre too wide. So I might have to do a little bit of adjustment when I get to that. But I'm using the one that's a millimetre too wide because it's got all the hardware on it already, so that makes it quicker for me for tonight. Look at that. I love these bits that come out. I didn't know until I got the printer that it poops. And it has loads of waste that pushes out the back. Ray saying assemble the top on top of the back piece. Oh, let's read back through this. Where's my... Well, I'm glad I'm doing this live with some help here. Start at the neck, line up the screw holes, assemble the top on top of the back piece. I put the adhesive on the back side, give it a second to allow it to bond, and shift if you have to be physical. Has anyone been watching Highline Guitar's 3D guitar build? I haven't. I like the guy from Highline Guitars. I've got a load of these that I rescued from my children, or from the bin when my children don't want them anymore. I'm just going to put these here, give me a slightly better surface to work on, I think. A surface that may react really lovely with the plastic world. So Barry, is the Highline Guitars build a plastic neck as well? I've seen some amazing videos of people doing plastic 3D printed necks. I think are quite cool. So this is where I was going to use my clamps. So like I said, I've got load up here. Should I bother? I guess, Ray, watching something like that when it's someone, Highline Guitars, who's maybe not an expert at 3D printing, is interesting watching along. Right, so John has said yes. So look, I'm going to get all my clamps down, ready. Actually, I'll just get a few of them down ready. Boom. The orange theme of my workshop there. So I've said this before, but I often listen to music when I'm working in my workshop. Sorry, the radio when I'm working in my workshop, not music. But oh, that's interesting. It doesn't really want to. The surface that was against this one, that was against the bed plate, it doesn't quite line up. It doesn't quite settle on it. It's sort of bubbling up. Oh, pooling up. Let's try it again. Yeah, I've recently started using Audible and listening to books when I'm working, which I find is brilliant. I used to watch Netflix when I was working, which was great if I had a show that didn't involve much concentration, or didn't involve looking at the screen very much. Lots of exposition was great. But now having the audiobooks is brilliant, although I do find I have to rewind every now and then when I'm thinking about things and realise I don't know what the hell's going on in the book. So I'll describe what's happening here. I'm putting it down. I'm feeling the edges, and what I can feel is it lines up really smoothly, really nicely. It's actually not very hard to do that at all. If I was doing something traditional, so for those of you who know, my background is an artist. I used to make sculptures. Often I'd be working parts like this, where you're putting two parts together on a mold, and they would have something that lets them key into each other. So for example, this is going to go here now, but it keys into this side, like the jigsaw piece, holds it nice and tight in place. But if it was a mold that I was working on, a traditional mold would have indents in here and matching lumps in there to tie it together. So when you put it together like this, there's no doubt you're getting it perfectly in place. I'm not sure if that's something that's needed, or if it's just an extra pointless step, complicated step. Yeah, John said make sure the wire holes have had the supports removed. I went round on that piece. Let's do all the pieces now to make sure. Yeah, so what you can see here, if you haven't 3D printed before, is this section here is the support that the printer set up and printed. So one of the great things I find about the printer is it just does all that itself. And the support is printed, as far as I know, with much thinner walls, not as thick infill. You can just pull it off like this. Or maybe not when I'm leaning over everything. There you go. And it reveals the shape underneath. Because obviously when it's 3D printing, if it's printing this way round and it's got that underneath, it's not going to have any support. So as it's printing, it could collapse. So it prints that support, and that support just pulls out. And that's what John's just said I should make sure I remove them all. This one's got some bits here as well, which is where the wire would thread going between the pickup and the main control cavity. There we go, and the bridge. Has the bridge got a hole going through it? I'm not sure the bridge has. Normally I would have a hole going from the bridge into the cavity to allow it to be earthed. Right, that's my way down from the neck. So because of the way the neck works here, it's got this little dent here, which is basically going to allow that to key into place and not slip at all. Now that one's in place, this isn't going to slip. So it's really important, I guess, to get that as perfect as possible. So what's happening is I can see the jigsaw puzzle gaps appearing as I piece it together. And what I love about those other guitars of Ray's is the surfaces he makes that hide that jigsaw effect. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and check out Ray's websites in the links below. And like I said, for me, I wanted to do this test so I could experiment with how to fill the gaps, smooth them out and paint it. And like I said, I'm now going to, actually not now, once we've had this live stream chat tomorrow, I'm going to go away, make some changes and do another print ready to experiment on as well. So I've got a couple that I can experiment on, and also some scrap prints or prints that I'm making of other things that aren't guitars that I can practice the paintwork on. So let's just be extra strong and go around the inner edges here. I guess one thing you want to do is make sure you don't splash too much so it goes on the surfaces or anything, anywhere where you don't want it to be. And I probably should wear gloves. I know I'm talking about wearing a mask all the time. I also wear gloves a lot. This looks like a piece that needs a little bit of a squeeze. There we go. And like I said before, I can really feel around the edge how well it fits together. I wish I could remember the name of the guitar. It's a bass guitar, but Yamaha made a range in the early 2000s that were plastic bodied, and they were amazing. I absolutely loved it, and I regret not buying one, and I cannot remember offhand what what it was called. RG something, I seem to remember, and it had some lights behind the switches that lit up. But anyway, I thought they were great, and the feel of this reminds me of them a bit. Let me just angle that back a bit more. Oh yes, Ray, you're 100% right. You don't need to ground the bridge because the pickup is grounded, and the pickup base plate is grounded to the bridge. Can be grounded to the bridge if it's not already, but it should be through the wires that go up in it. I'm just going to walk over here to look at my other screen. Nice. I'm really annoyed that I didn't get to set up everything properly beforehand, but never mind. Now I'm going to just put a bit of weld on top here because I don't mind it leaving a mark, because that's going to be under the pick guard and under the neck pocket. I'm just doing it so it seeps in the gaps Again, I don't know if you really need to do that, but it seeps in the gaps and seals it all together. And I'm going to do some around the inner cavity of the pickup. Again, doesn't matter, you're not going to see that. Actually, what would be interesting, John, Ray, do you ever shield your insides like you would do on a normal guitar? Seems to make sense you would shield it. Always shielded, yeah. So that's the thing. I got shielding tape here, but I normally now use shielding paint. So I wonder how well the paint will work on something like this. I'm just going to leave that a minute. Because where it's clamped there, I'm just going to leave it a moment when I run some round on here. And if I put it on thinly, it might wick underneath into the gap and seal in the gap. I just have to raise this a bit so I don't glue my clamps to it. So what I'm doing here, maybe Ray or John or someone could say, is this just overkill? Running it around like this. Yeah, I can see the gap there for where the wire runs between the two. I'm just going to double check on this other screen that it's playing properly. It is, just mute it. Okay. There we are. I do have slight internet issues in my workshop, so hopefully the picture quality is okay. One reason I have the internet issues on evenings like this is it's pretty rainy and windy out. For some reason that seems to affect it. Great, let's try the next piece. Now this is a piece that really shows, look, you can see all the layers there. And the reason all the layers are there is because I did it on the most basic print you can, which, like I said, was good because it meant I could print super quickly to get this done in time, but it also meant that I've got that thing that I can experiment with to see how I can cover up marks. I'm going to do another print run of it all where it's really good quality. Excellent. I do love these colours. Oh, the pickguard, by the way, Ray just sent me a new file for the pickguard. It's plain white, but he had sent me one before, which also did a print of, where I did it as like a 3-ply. So it's got that blue, that teal stripe in it. And what I thought was really clever is I thought it was just going to be 3-ply, but it's not. It's just the teal just goes around the edge. It's not on the inner at all. Very clever. Yeah, one reason I'm not so worried about the pick guard as well is I'm going to, for the book, be showing people how to make pick guards, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to use this one to make a pick guard for that was in one piece, because obviously my printer couldn't print one big enough in one piece. So just having a plain white pick guard for now is perfect, but I might end up making one in something different. I've got a crazy idea for how I want to finish the paintwork on this guitar. Something I hope Mark Gutierrez likes, because I'm going all in crazy 80s, I think. I might do yellow and black, but it might be neon pink and black. And it's going to be the base colour on the front is going to be the opposite of the back. So, for example, yellow base coat on the front, black base coat on the back, and it's going to have spatter paint on it of the opposite colour. So the front will look yellow with black paint splatters, the back will be black with yellow paint splatters. I'm going to have to design the way they interface together, how they meet on the sides, and then some accent details, like what I'm going to do. I might do the reverse on the pick guard, so the pick guard matches the back. That makes sense. Right, now I can see why John has said you can't have overkill, because I'm putting all of this weld on, but it's quite a big area. So I wonder how much will still be wet or working by the time I make contact with everything. So doing that extra seam is probably a good idea. And actually, now I think about it, maybe I should have just gone around the edges, the outside edges, just quickly at the end then. But never mind. If I find it starts to delaminate, then what I can do is just go around the edge with the weld, because it doesn't matter too much, because like I said, I'm going to be painting it all. So I'm going to do some extra just there to hold that together. That feels good. Look, if anyone's watching this in the future, not in the live stream, let me know in the comments, have you printed a 3D guitar before? Have you got any suggestions for techniques on how to fit it together? Have you got some photos you can share with me and the Guitar Builders Collective? If you don't really know, I've been mentioning the podcast, but if you don't know what the Guitar Builders Collective is, it's essentially a group of people that came together. Well, some people prior to the COVID lockdowns, but during the COVID lockdown, there was a big surge online of, particularly on YouTube, of people building and making guitars and sharing their builds. And this community sort of built out of people that don't wick on the surface. Bigger brush necks, don't wick on the surface. Good point, John. Yeah, the collective came together of people that were not just uploading content themselves, but commenting on each other's, and just who maybe met commenting on some of the bigger YouTubers videos. And that network sort of grew and stayed together. It exists as WhatsApp groups, and someone set up a forum. And then after the forum, so the forum was set up by Chris from Franklin Guitars. After the forum, Corey from Saul Good Guitars set up an Instagram account. Then Brad from BB Guitars set up a Facebook page. I started interacting with a small group of them quite regularly through WhatsApp, and chatted to a few of them and said, does anyone want to do a sort of live stream where we all chat? Because I enjoy chatting, and I often just work alone in my workshop. And the sad thing about working alone in your workshop is you never get to talk to anyone, you never get to meet anyone, and it is quite lonely. And although chatting via, can you see me now? Although chatting via comment sections and WhatsApp is fun, chatting real life, or not real life, with actual voices is even better. So we set up this podcast, which is now an audio podcast, but initially for the first 50 episodes was just video on YouTube. You should be able to find the links via the description for this video. We've now, tomorrow, the deep dive into 3D printing is episode 73. John's just said COVID is why he started building guitars as well. Oh, that's interesting. John, had you had any experience building things prior to that? Yeah, so the Facebook page is great, interacting, people sending photos of what their builds are and questions about what they're building. The forum tends to be a bit more in-depth questions, or like development build or people's builds. The Instagram is essentially where Corey shares work of other people. So if you're a member of the collective or you comment regularly on things, that's how you become a member of the collective. You just comment regularly on things. Yeah, if you comment regularly on things, then Corey ends up sharing and posting your posts, particularly your stories. He normally reshares stories. And then basically, if you're following the Instagram page and looking at the stories, you get to see a whole load of new builders that you might not have come across before. And you can start following them and interacting with them. So it kind of grows the community. So I missed what John said, maybe misunderstood. Oh, see you, Ray. hopefully see you back soon. Hopefully I'm not still doing this by the time you join us tomorrow, or later for you, tomorrow for me. So John, were you saying don't bother doing the surface here? You can do it anyway. Why not? John just did web screen and databasing before, and guitars was his first foray into building 3D real life. I mean, web is still real life, isn't it? It's just different real life. So it actually goes together. Once you push it together, these joins, the jigsaw joins, are pretty smooth. I like it. John said his first bass build fogged it in half. My very first, so I started getting into guitars by painting guitars and customizing guitars, and my very first sort of body that I built, I didn't really understand intonation properly, because I was just experimenting myself. I took apart a guitar, made a new body, stuck it back together, and it didn't really work. And the reason was I didn't know what intonation was, and I hadn't really positioned things logically or correctly. It looked right, but it obviously wasn't right. Right, I'm going to do this piece next. How does it fit on? So there's probably also better brushes to use than this. Maybe a natural fibre brush would be better. I'm using a really cheap brush here, and I think the bristles have just melted together. Oh no, once I've dipped it in the weld, it seems to separate it again. Right, where am I? I was doing this way around. Yes, brush size seems to be important. A bigger brush size would have helped this a lot. I've just realised my camera might not be angled well enough to see everything I'm doing. So I'm just going to finish this piece and then I'll re-angle it. Oh, I just got a good whiff of the weld. Lovely stuff. Oh yeah, now you can see there I put a bit too much of the weld on this and it's gone onto the surface and it has melted the surface a bit. Now actually, when it comes to painting it, putting the weld on the surface might be a good way to help hide the cracks, the joins, the cracks. Maybe I'll end up doing that. Like I said, this isn't one to experiment with. You see this bit, this base bit, which is blue and not all white, is because I ran out of my white filament and I couldn't be bothered to wait for more to come in. So what I can do is a test here in this gap. Let me just move this camera a bit. So I'm going to do a test here in this gap. I don't know how well this is showing up on the camera, but on this gap here there is a join. I'm going to just see, because that's inside the control cavity, I can just see what it's like if I put some of the weld on it, how well it connects the two sides, which might be a good idea for the first surface. I think I read somewhere that some people with their 3D prints, before they paint them, do a layer of acetone to help melt the layers together. Again, that's something I'm researching for when I go and paint this one. It's done a good job of sealing the layers. Obviously, it's made the surface a bit You can sort of see the brush marks even. Whether that detracts from the layer prints, I don't know. But that has definitely helped it link together. So I'm going to go around here and do that again. Oh, let's just read back in these comments here. Barry said he was going to join in the Great Guitar Build Off, which is what a lot of people are doing during the lockdowns, but procrastinated through research, which is what we all do. Started something for the Yergs Cup, but he still hasn't finished it. No rush to finishing it. It's for the Yergs Cup. It's all about just the pleasure of building and not being too precious about things. Just an excuse to make and chat with each other, really. Yeah, natural fibers like horsehairs might be better for the brush, says John. The sealing it like that might help with the shielding. I am going to, for today, not shield it. I'm just going to put everything together and just see roughly what it looks like. But yeah, when it comes back to shielding, I imagine the tape's better, but I'm going to try with the cavity paint I use. Don't acetone PLA, it just degrades the PLA and doesn't help with the finish. Bondo or wood filler, if you're going for that kind of finish. Interesting, yes. I use often, well, Bondo, I believe, is a brand that you can't get in this country, but I use a flexible car filler on some of my guitar bodies when I'm working on them, and that seems to be like an ideal thing to use on this, because essentially it's made to go on car bodies, including bumpers and things, which are plastics. Right, nearly there. It's taking longer than I thought because I'm chatting so much and getting distracted, but I'm enjoying that. So one thing that made me get the 3D printer was doing these mic stand clips I'm doing with Ben from Battle Plan Harmonica Accessories. But the other thing that encouraged me to buy it was the sales, was listening to Ray chat about 3D printing, and then it was going online and discovering how many luthier tools there are available to 3D print. A lot of them for free and a lot of them very cheaply. And I thought, you know what? Some of those tools are tools that I have already, but some of them are tools that I might end up buying, and they're quite expensive. But the 3D prints being free or very cheap made me think maybe it's worth it. Like some of the necks I'm carving for a future project, I want to carve in different designs, different shapes. And Stu Mac, for example, do neck carving templates, but there are some companies that do 3D printed neck carving templates, and they were free. So that would save me potentially 150, a couple hundred quid. Maybe it's 150 quid really for all of them. Oh, I just splashed there. You can see the splash marks, but it's going underneath the pit guard anyway. But still, that's a good thing to think about. So I wonder if there's information on this plastic weld of how long it takes to do its job. I guess it all is slightly irrelevant because it depends how thickly you put it on and how big the surface areas are, maybe. Oh, perfect. I love it. That last piece. Oh, that's satisfying. So John's saying the cavity paint seeps through the body somehow and doesn't stick well. So the one I use is a really good one from Nitolac, affiliate links below. A really good one from Nitolac, and it's quite thick, and I think it's acrylic based. I'd be surprised if it sinks through, but I can understand that maybe it doesn't adhere well, and that's why I need to research a bit more for when I'm painting about how to prep the surface is better. Do you know what I should have done while I was doing this? I should have charged my microphone up so that I can walk around when I get all the next bits and you can hear it. Never mind. So something's gone wrong here. Oh, that's all right. Nice. Here we have. Yeah, it's water based, but I'm surprised it seeps through this one. Where is it? This is the one I use. And what I'd say about it is it's really thick. So compared with some of the other shielding paints I've used, it goes on much thicker. And also, I don't know if that means it's got more graphite in it and makes it more conductive. So lesson learned, for live streaming, charge my mic. I've just plugged it in case I do go for a wander later. I'll be back 1 second. I'm just going to check on my main screen. Oh, I've been streaming for 72 minutes. Amazing. Thank you everyone that's watching. Yeah, and thank you everyone in the live chat that's hit a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Don't forget, tomorrow, 9 AM. So that is 12 hours from now is when we're doing the live stream to chat about 3D printing. Right. Well, that's good. It's almost all dissolved, evaporated even. So I can put that out of the way. Let me just move this a bit and have a look at my neck that I have. So I'm using this neck because I had it handy and it's already got all the hardware on it. It's from a Paisley guitar. I've got to say, it's okay. Needs some fretwork, but if I'm keeping this guitar to use, then I can do that. And do you remember I said I thought it was about 1 millimeter too wide? I think that is the case, unfortunately. It's so annoying. Oh no, wait, it's going in. Like I said, I've got another neck which is about 1 millimeter, not as wide as this, and fits really well, but it's in quite bad state. It's been taken off of a second-hand guitar. I bought lots of second-hand guitars for the book I'm writing because I need to do loads of demos on the book. Let's swap this around a minute. I need to do loads of demos for the book of paintball jobs, and in order to do that I need lots of guitars to do the demos on. So it seemed sensible to buy in a load of second-hand guitars so I can just quickly do some paint jobs on it, but also at the same time I can demonstrate stripping guitars and different methods for doing that. So I've got lined up for tomorrow afternoon I'm going to do chemical stripping, sand stripping, and heat stripping on 3 different guitars for demos for the book, and then I've got another 4 guitars to strip as well. Actually, one of them I might not strip, I might just use an example of how to paint over already existing paint. Yeah, now what I've just seen below, which you can see in this small photo, is the guitar absolutely taking shape. That is so cool. So although I love Meteoras, I've never actually played one. I should go and check one out in the shop. I live in Brighton, or just on the edge of Brighton, and Brighton's got GAC guitar and keyboards, which have got a really good web presence. They've got a good web shop. They also, well, not so much anymore, but they used to do a lot of YouTube content. I think their social media guy left. He was really good. He did videos about their stock, but also just kind of histories of brands and stuff like that. Well worth checking it out. I haven't noticed them do anything recently. I don't know if they have stock because he's left, or they're just not doing anything. I did message them, or I messaged him when he was there, asking if he wanted to collaborate and do some stuff with a guitar tech or luthier, setting up guitars and showing their customers how to set stuff up, but they didn't have the capacity to do it then, or politely didn't want to do it. But maybe I should contact them again. They're just down the road. I'd love to do stuff with them. But anyway, I went into their shop, checked out their guitars, and what I like doing is walking around the shop, looking at finishes and seeing trends, and particularly seeing things I like the look of, like looking for finishes that I think I might like to do myself. And I've got to say, I didn't see many I liked last time I went in, but I do like satin finishes. I saw quite a few very cool satin finishes. What else did I see that I liked? Oh, I saw something I didn't like. I saw a Telecaster, a Fender Player Series. It wasn't that cheap. And the the bridge didn't quite cover the bridge route for the pickup, which I thought was a bit rubbish. Apparently it's quite common, but still, when you're paying that amount, you'd think they'd get it right. Ah, it fits. Oh, it fits, and the holes that are already in it more or less line up. I wasn't sure I'd have to fill it and drill new holes. Right, there we go. Let's look at that. I've got to say, this is so light. I can't believe how light it is. I'm sure Ray was talking about how heavy they are. It must just be the... Can it just be the way I printed it? This is so light. It's brilliant. Compared to the guitars I'm making at the moment, which are the prototyping stage, I've made them really bloody heavy. This is amazing. Right. Let's swap some things around here. John said, be a little bit worried about the quality of my print. Yeah, I mean, maybe I haven't printed it well enough and it's going to carve up. And that's nothing to do with the quality of the print. That's to do with my choice of, sorry, the quality of the design. That's to do with my choice of how to print it, which wasn't what Ray suggested. But anyway, we will see how under string tension it works. So I think what I'm going to do first is screw the neck on. So behind me, let's swap this round so you can see. Behind me here, behind Vigo, I have a wall of little drawers, and those little drawers all have things in them to do with guitar building. At the bottom anyway. The top's mainly to do with different screws and bolts that I sometimes use in guitars, but mainly use when I'm building jigs and things. But at the bottom here, I've got the top row is all gold, next row is all chrome, then it's all black, and that's just miscellaneous things. And then going down vertically, the columns have got different things in. So this end column here is neck plates. Let's see, I've got some old neck plates that I don't need to worry about too much for this. Let's put one on Here we go. I've got an old Chrome Squire one. That'll do. And then I've got next to it. Oh, have I got any screws left? I've got some screws here. But have I got a full set? Because I've got 13 guitars on the go at the moment for various reasons, mainly for the book. I've got all the components for those guitars in their own boxes. So I've, for example, got 13 sets of neck screws in 13 different boxes. There we go. Those two are the same, those two are the same. That will do. And if you're picky, I'll put that on the wrong way. I guess at least with the Squire on it, it's got a bit of a fender link. Hey, thank you, Owen. Owen is in the live chat tomorrow when we're building the 3D guitars. He's got a bit of experience with 3D printing. So see you tomorrow. Thank you, Owen. Now, as with anything, when I tighten my screws, I don't tighten them all the way. One at a time, I go round and tighten all four most of the way, and then I'll do the final bit. So one of the things I definitely want to discuss in tomorrow's stream is the thickness of walls and the infill and how that adds to the weight, the strength, and the ability to resist the string tension. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, there it is. Look, I've got the neck in flat, I was going to say then. But I think it is in flat. Because like I said, it was very, I mean, it wasn't even a millimetre. It was so slight how wide it was. How much wide it was. There we go. Yeah, look, cheap neck, I can feel the fret sprout there. Perfect. Right. Let's just see what this is going to look like in place. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it again. It's slightly too wide, the neck, for the template, for the scratch plate. I might have to narrow the scratch plate slightly. Let's work that out. Where would I narrow it? So I'm just going to do that bit there. So just down here, I've got my files. I'm going to do this on camera. And for today's stream, I'm not going to go into the wiring it all up. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put the bridge on and put some strings in. I may not even put. I ought to put pickup in if I've got one. There we go. I only need a very slight adjustment there. Oh, sweet! Look at that. Right, because my mic's not working, I'm just going through the mic on my camera here. Can't really do a walkabout like I would like to. So I'm going to do a walkabout in silence. I'm going to take this camera with me, and I'll just talk really loud. Hopefully you'll hear me through the mic, which is not with me when I walk over. And I'll show you my bits and bobs over there. By the way, I've got people can join my membership, and on my... Oh, it's hard not to push. Hey, hello, Bill. I was just about to say, I've got a membership as well, and on the membership, I have been doing a almost weekly. I haven't for the last 2 weeks because of the Kickstarter I'm working on taking over. I've been doing a tour of my workshop. So I think there's 15 episodes so far. Each episode looks at a slightly different element of my workshop. So I have, for example, talked about these bits over here. I'm going to shout now, hopefully you hear me. I've talked about these bits over here. My drawers where I keep all the parts. Here's my telly bridges. Here's the telly bridge. Boing. Oh, it looks so smart. I love it. Now, have I got some pickups? Let's see. I realise now I don't have any telly pickups. So I don't have any telly pickups, but I have these, which I could potentially put in for now. Yeah, this teal, I love this colour. Absolutely. Hold on, I've got a new box of it. I haven't got the box, hold on. So there it is. It's Bamboo Lab PLA Basic is called Turquoise. Excuse me. I do like it. It's not their matte one, but it does look kind of matte to me. I can't be bothered now to make this fit, so I won't. I'll just put the bridge on. Like I said, it was all experiment to see how it feels. I wonder if this one would fit in here though. No, it won't. That's annoying. All right, so I'm going to do what I said before, which is not wire it up, but string it up so I can at least hear it acoustically, which was my main plan for tomorrow. And on my list of parts to order are some telly pickups, a telly pickup set. Where to get it from though? I've been buying from Warman recently. Warman are a UK-based company. I think it's a one-man band, and they make pretty good pickups. In fact, I'd say really good pickups for the price. They are very cheap, and one reason they're cheap is they come wrapped in bubble wrap in a sort of really manila envelope. Nothing special. I quite like that. It cuts costs down. There's no sort of facade of fanciness on it, but they sound killer for the price. But then at the same time, I've been using some Tone Rider pickups recently. I'd love to try their telly set, so maybe I'll do that. Right, let's get this on. Now, I rearranged some things the other day, and there it is. Yay. I thought I'd lost my handy ball of wool. Actually, I should show you this while I'm here. So this is the wall I've been leaning out, of the cupboard I've been leaning up towards, and that's where I've got my clamps I've been using. And I keep screwdrivers there, although it's mainly the 3 in the front here that I use. The others kind of back up, so I've got bigger clamps up there. That's the camera that I've got angled down, and I keep scissors, which I'm about to grab here. There's all magnetic strips. It's really handy. And then inside the cupboard is, on one side at the moment, is almost stains and filler. On the other side is some cleaning equipment. Then at the top I've got things like my business cards and stuff. Right, let's do this classic old trick. Oh, so I'm just going to read over some comments. Oh, about the big scratch. Yeah, so Bill, if you miss it, it's all 3D printed and put together. So the scratches are not scratches there. If you see anything, it's to do with the way it's been printed. I've printed it at a really basic level, partly because I want to experiment painting on it, and also then want to print a much better quality one. Ray's in the chat at the moment. It's one of Ray's designs. Ray recommended print settings, and I haven't done the print settings he recommended, because I just went for a quick print just to see what it was like. Because what I wanted really to do today was find out what it's like to assemble it, because tomorrow's live stream we're going to talk about the actual printing process and printing 3D guitars and how it all works, and knowing that there is a quality that's incorrect is part of that, but also I just wanted to know what it was like to fit it together, and I didn't have much time to do the high quality print. I printed everything in here in 2 days, and they weren't even full days. I mean I start work at about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and I finish work about 5. I did all the front in one day, all the back in another day, amongst doing other things. Oh, so Ray said he used the same white and blue on one of his, but he alternated it. So he likes it in the front and back like this. One thing I like about this design, Ray, is the fact you've got the front and the back, and you can easily print it separately like that. I think it's very cool. One of my favourite guitars that I've ever owned, is a bass guitar, was a DePinto Belvedere bass, and it had a black front and a white back. Absolutely loved it. Still got it, but I've repainted it, so it's now got a yellow back and a purple front. Oh yeah, so Bill's just mentioned Bill Taylor Sonor and Sidewinder pickups. Basically, I agree with you, Bill. Once you've got pickups you like, sometimes there's no point trying anything else. But every now and then I get tempted to try a new build, a new maker, particularly a small builder in the UK, that I can get direct from them and support them. And it's nice to get it, but not always. It's not always worth it for some of the builds I'm doing. Sometimes spending a lot of money on a boutique pickups isn't necessarily the right thing. Yes, so John's saying string it up, see what's going to happen. I'm going to string it up. I'm going to string it up, and I'm going to leave it strung up for weeks, and then we'll see what happens. Come back to it in a few weeks' time. Right, so let's get on with stringing it up. So I'm going to string it up first of all with some wool. And what I do is tie it like this. And then I'm going to thread it through. You know that thing where people scratch a chalk board and it makes your teeth go funny? I get that with wool. That's just made my teeth go horrible. Right, so I'm going to thread it through the saddle. I was having a chat with Ray about these saddles when I was talking about the fact I want to use them. They had a bad rap online apparently, because it can be a string through model, but I use them as top mounts instead of string through. People don't like that, but I think it's pretty pretty fine. Now, normally I do this on a guitar just to check the neck is straight, but I've already screwed the neck in. So that was a bit pointless. Anyway, I can change the neck if it's not. But because it's all been designed by Ray, it's already got the holes in it to screw this in place. So technically it should all be correct. Get the hold on. Right, it turns out I can't multitask and chat while I'm doing this task. There we go. So if the holes line up here, what I can see now, that the holes for the bridge are there, and it means the strings are perfectly in place. If anything, I could jog the neck very slightly. I don't think I need to. Right. Now have I got the right screws for it? Let's get the screws out. So one thing I want to talk about with oh, so I'm just going to go back through the chats. And one thing I want to talk about with Ray tomorrow is when you're screwing the scratch plates on, how do you decide? Like, I'm just going to screw through the plastic, but like these have already got the screws in it, so presumably there's more of a solid wall around them, which is presumably something that's needed for strength. I've just seen, Ray, I take it all back. There is a hole here that goes through for grounding the bridge. There we go. Oh, Bill said here. Yeah, Bill said he's not a fan of string through, actually. Yeah, well, I'm glad you think this is great. Allow you to modify the design. I am absolutely up for working on this, playing with this, and letting you know if anything isn't right. But it all looks great to me. I'm gonna have to do this properly, and take the saddle off. Oh, there we go. Now I've moved the saddle enough that I can. I'm just putting the outer screws in at the moment, and like before, I'm not screwing them all the way down. Then I can put the middle screw in. Yeah, I've got to loosen the saddles for that. It'd be good to hear from anyone in the chat or anyone that's watching in the future, leaving in something in the description. What do you think of this Meteora design? And compared to other Meteoras, so if you want to see some other Meteoras, go and check out, for example, Ray's page. Ray's got on Instagram, you'll see his orange Meteora, which is so cool. It's not got the telly set up, it's a different setup, it's brilliant. But also check out Fender's pages and see what you think about them. So I'm trying to read the chat at the same time as screwing here. So this Paisley neck that I put on it, the reason I've got this Paisley neck is my friend Toby, who I might be collaborating on soon with a secret project, which you'll find out about. Well, it's not really secret, it's development of my original Jurg's cup build, the Devil Bows. Anyway, he bought a Paisley in cheap, so he can have a cheap guitar body to put his aluminium neck that he bought on. I haven't played it yet, but apparently it's very cool. It's useful. The one reason I use this bench to set up a lot, because I use this bench to set up a lot, I put all my tools that I need over there for it. I then got just over here outside my actual setup bench for when I'm doing proper final stage setups. And what I probably should do is put a bit of paper under these saddles so they don't scratch the surface too much. But there we go. Let's do this. And one thing I do all the time in my workshop is when I finish with something, I just chuck it on the floor and then I sweep round later. But I'm right by the bin, so I might as well put it in the bin. There we go. I'll just put these back for them. Now, what do I do? Do I push this so it's touching the bridge? Or do I have it, because then I've got this little corner there, or do I have it so it's slightly away from it? No, if I do that, then that doesn't match up. So I think I'm going to do it touching. There we go. Yeah, so I'm not going to wire it up yet, as I said. Let's just get my little box of chrome scratch plate screws and do the scratch plate. So I've got this. It's a center finding drill bit. Or a reverse meteora might look pretty cool. What would you call that? Oh yeah, Ray, let's put the link to your orange one in the article you just got for Big Reps in tomorrow's chat. I never used to watch SpongeBob back in the day, Bill. I'm reading from the comments here. If you're watching in the future, you can read the live comments as they go on. But I now watch it a lot because my kids like them. Yes, I'm not worried about that corner there. I don't know if you were here when I was talking about this, Ray, but for the book I'm writing, I need to have sections on making pick guards. And one of the things I want to do is make a pick guard for this in one piece. Though I'll tell you what, you can't really see the join really. I know Ray sent me another version of this which links in a different way so that you don't have a hole here, a screw here. So it would just have the screw there and it has a little bit that links the two together so they clip together. But for ease of printing, I just went for this one because that other one would be in 3 parts. Yeah, so I'm going to be making a pick guard for this out of one piece, clear perspex so I can back paint it. So I'm not too worried about it. Let me just get my drill. What I like about this material as well is I can really shift it around quite a bit here. It's brilliant. All right, anyway, let's stop me saying brilliant. So I can see actually with the neck and the way it's screwed in, I could have pushed it this way a little bit more, and that would have given me an even better line for the strings when they go on. So once I've taken this apart and painted it, I'm going to fill the holes in the back of this neck and re-put it in place, because I basically put it in with the holes as it is, and I think there is a slight give that I could push and do it. It's just a trick that you do on all guitars to do like that. Right, anyway, look, let's do one hole at a time. Here we go. Oh, it's nearly 10. Oh, wrong drill bit. Okay, I've got my drill bits just up there as well. Screwdriver bits, even not drill bits. Now that was interesting. As I was screwing it in, you could hear the sort of echo of the screwdriver in the body. I wonder how that, if you hear that with the sound of the strings, like a hollow body in some way. Once I've got these two in, I can go around and do all the other ones. That feels really secure to me. I'm happy with that. Did I look at them with a millimetre or two between them? I sort of did earlier on. I didn't talk about it. I thought that with a couple of millimetres between them, yes, what I didn't like is that could go forward, but it didn't give a big enough gap. So if I push this bit forward, I thought it didn't give a big enough gap. And if I push that back, that front didn't line up with the front of the bridge plate anymore. And I didn't like that. That's what was going on in my head. But saying that, absolutely go and have a look at Ray's orange one, where it's deliberately in two parts. In fact, a lot of his pick guards, because you have to print them in two parts because of the size of the printer bed, he designs them to be in two parts, and they look awesome. Yeah, you're right. But like I said, Ray did design a pick guard for this that linked them together, so it would pull it tight and you wouldn't have had that line so much there. But also, like I keep saying, I'm making a new pick guard for this in the end anyway. Oh, Bill, you probably didn't catch that at the beginning. I'm building this guitar partly so I've had an experience of putting one together, so I can join in with the chat tomorrow on the Guitar Builders Collective podcast, where we're talking about 3D printing guitars. So I can join in with questions about the actual physicality of putting it together. I put on slightly bigger screws there. That's weird. They don't all match. I'll take those two out, I think. Let me get some matching ones first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you know what? It's too late at night. I can change them later. That's my attitude. Yeah, so I was printing it mainly as a test, so I've got something to talk about tomorrow. But also, I'm going to be repainting it. I want to experiment painting a 3D print. I'm going to be reprinting this again at better quality. I guess that's one of the things I didn't necessarily put. Yeah, you're not putting it down at all, Bill. Keep asking. Keep commenting and saying away as you see it. I guess what I didn't think of prior to this is, of course, when you buy a guitar like this, buy the print files from Ray or wherever, you can make many of them. And potentially, with something like this, where all the wiring's in the pit guard and the bridge, you could just swap the bodies around quite easily. Oh look, I've got a drip there. That's interesting. I've got a drip there from the weld. I think I like the idea of painting them anyway, to get everything totally perfectly smooth. But that's again because of my print quality. And again, I also want to try one of Ray's patterned tops. Oops, that's not very good. Patterned tops, which sort of hide all the jigsaw element of it in the way they're patterned. I think that looks pretty cool. Not just because of the way it hides everything, but because the patterns look really cool in and of themselves. Ah, let's just have a look at this. Yes, we're doing the stream for tomorrow at an odd time just because it works better for most of the people on it. So Ray is in from Australia, so it'll be 8 PM for him, and Mr. Glynn's joining us from New Zealand. I think for him it's 9 PM. Then there's Owen and myself, UK and Ireland, so that's 9 AM for us. And then there's Jack, also in the UK. It's 9 AM for him. And then we've got Mark in America. He's the only one joining at an odd time. It's 3 AM for him. But what again, Phil, what maybe I wasn't clear enough then is I printed it at a really basic setting, so you get lots of lines. If you print it at a higher setting, the lines are much less visible in the print. In fact, potentially not visible if it's done really well. And I did it at the lower print quality because I just wanted to experience putting it together, and the lower print quality meant I could do it very quickly. Right, let's get some strings for it. Ah, what's going on? Oh yeah, I thought I'd run out of strings, but don't worry, I've got a whole new pack. Boing! Ernie Ball custom gauge 46. I also found this, which is a piezo pickup that I can plug it in to tune it up with. But does it reach my tuner? No. Right, let's just put them on for now, and then I'll go over to the tuner in a minute. My main desk over there is such a mess. Might not be able to do that. I'll tune it on my app on my phone. So I'm going to string it up, but I'm not going to do a full setup and get the intonation and everything today. So the intonation may be out, but I'm not worried about that right now. That's something I can do off air. Or if people really want to watch me do an intonation setup, I can do that on another occasion. Because this stream's gone on long enough, and I want to be fresh in the morning when I chat to everyone. Ooh. My saddle screws have come out a bit on that one. There we go. This is so boring for you to watch. So let me tell you about some other things while it's happening. So you may or may not know about my Kickstarter that I've been doing. Basically, in 2016, a new Ghostbusters film came out, directed by Paul Feig. The main Ghostbuster characters were played by an all-female cast. I really like the film. I've seen it many, many times, partly because my kids like it as well. But as it was coming out, I thought, that's it. I was 2 years into building guitars. I will build a guitar themed around the proton pack, the unlicensed nuclear accelerator that they wear on their back. And I made one. It was quite heavy. It was all out of wood. I managed to get some screenshots from the trailer and some few press photos to base it on because the film hadn't come out yet. It was quite fun. People liked it, but I never sold it. I just kept it for myself. And then in 2022, I went back and revisited it because I got into proton pack making from Facebook groups. Not that I made a proton pack, but just seeing how people customize them to make them look like their own thing, not exactly like props from the film. So I went back and edited that one a bit. And someone saw it, Adam. He wanted a 5-string bass version of it, so he asked me to make one. And at that point, I thought, I know, I'll use this as an excuse to make a few as a sort of prototype for making more of them. And I'll do what I've wanted to do for ages, which is try a Kickstarter to try and fund making them. So a Kickstarter is a crowdfunding campaign. I first came across crowdfunding like that through bands that I liked who were doing crowdfunding for their albums. Essentially, they had an album they wanted to record. Recording an album cost money. They didn't have the money to record it because they weren't with like big labels or anything. So what you did is you paid for the album in advance, 15 quid or wherever it was. And if enough people bought the album in advance, your money would be taken from you through the pledge campaign. And let's do it like this. Through the pledge campaign. And then they would go off, record their album, which a lot of the bands that I pledged money to did do. And 6 months, 9 months, a year later, the album is released and you get a copy of it, but you've already paid for it, so it comes to you. And what was really exciting is during that whole process, because you'd given them the money up front, they wanted to reward you. So they would do kind of, most of the bands anyway, would do behind the scenes footage, them in the studio. One band even had the people that supported them name the album, which they regretted because I can't remember the name of the album now. It was really rubbish. But there you go. But it was really good Q&As with the band. I loved it. I've done it for lots of other things, but I'm not for a guitar. So I thought I'll do it for my I'll kickstart, crowdfund my guitar, my Ghostbuster guitars. Because basically, a guitar costs me quite a bit to make because I need to buy all the parts in. And the Ghostbuster ones are not cheap to make. So if I'm making them to sell, in order to sell guitars, I'd like to make a few at a time. And I don't have the money to lay out to make a few. When people come to me with a commission, they pay me in advance 75% or more. And then I build the guitar. They release the last money and I send them the guitar. So it's basically the same thing. I'm asking people for money up front to build the guitar, and then I'll build it. So the Kickstarter went live a few weeks ago. I've had one person buy a prototype, which I'd already made. So I'm selling that. So they just get that guitar sent to them. I've had 2 people pay for one to be built. So that would be the next version of it, the next sort of iteration. So that's great. I'm hoping I've got a few more people saying they're interested and asking me questions. So hopefully they'll commit to it too. And then along with all of that, I'm also doing access to my workshop through live streams like this. So as I'm building the guitar, you'll be able to join in regular live streams to see me building them, see my process for it, which might involve a bit of 3D printing, by the way. And I'm also selling t-shirts. So you know, some people might find the idea really interesting and want to support me and watch what I'm doing, but they can't afford a guitar, but maybe they can afford a t-shirt. So it's cool. So far I'm basically sold one guitar. I've got 2 guitars to build from it, hopefully a few more. The Kickstarter ends in December, but I'm not going to be building straight away because there's other elements of it to do first. So my thought is I'm going to also then sell some pre-orders via, what am I doing here? Some pre-orders via Reverb and my website, a bit more than the Kickstarter, because I don't want to cheat the Kickstarter people out of it. So I'll still be able to build a few more, and at the most I can build 10. So we'll see what happens. But what I'm thinking is, if it works out, maybe Kickstarter is a model for small builders to use going forward. Because one of the things I've noticed from going to guitar shows is a lot of builders want to build new models or variations of their guitars, but they can't do it until they sell what they've got. And it's becoming harder and harder to sell, especially at guitar shows. So if you can go forward, and just sell your guitars through Kickstarter direct to the people that want to buy them, that would be awesome. I have oh, Eric's there. I don't understand, cheerio Captain Chaos, but hello. I understand. Sorry, I advertised my Kickstarter also as experimenting with advertising on Facebook and Instagram. Not sure it really worked the way I wanted to, because most of my sales seem to have come through Reddit, or the fact that I'm a member of lots of Ghostbuster groups, and there seem to be people that like Ghostbusters and guitars in those groups. So I promoted it via those groups, and that seems to have worked out the best for me so far. Do you know what I'm doing wrong here? I've got these saddles set up really badly, so that the saddle screws are really low down. It's making it very hard to turn the saddles. Let me just raise the saddles, or lower the saddles, raise the screws. There we go. Now I can turn the saddle. He says, that's caught in the other one. Oh, that's such a bloody pain. Maybe this is why I don't want to live stream setups. There we go. Right, let me just fix these saddle screws before I do anything else. Yeah, so normally I would have my saddle screws set halfway, so the saddles are half their height that they can be high or low, halfway between the extremes, and that gives me more give when I'm setting up. Oh, sorry, a quicker give when I'm setting up to go one way or the other. Never mind. Let's go. This reminds me of setting up before a guitar show, when I come into my workshop and do it late at night, and and I start to get more and more tired, and I don't know what I'm doing. I make mistakes. But anyway, yes, that was a pain, Bill. My saddles are a bit awkward at the moment in the positioning, so it made it quite hard to thread the string through. So anyway, so the Kickstarter's there, and one thing I'm going to start doing is promoting it to people who are interested in guitar building, and promoting the idea of the live streams to them. See if I can get some people just to support me through that, and they'll be getting probably once a month for part of the build process, and once every other week for the main build process, access to my live streams when I'm building. And the aim of that as well is the people that have actually bought the guitars to really see what's happening with their own personal guitars, and do live streams at times they can make it. so I can ask them questions and they can ask me questions about their build. I'm trying to make the builds as personal as possible. So, for example, although they are all the Proton Pack inspired guitars, I am hoping to build them in different setups. So I've already got 2 left-handed basses that are wanted. I think they're both 4-string basses, but they're probably going to want different pickup configurations to each other. And then if the guitars come through, they'll be different again. I can do it with humbuckers, single coils, combinations. I can do the wiring as people want it. So just to clarify, if you can't see the live chat, if you watch this in the future, you might not be able to see the live chat because I had some technical issues at the beginning, which is I'm going to cut the video short, and when I do that, sometimes it gets rid of the live chat. I printed this at a low res and not what Ray suggested. So he's worried that the tension won't be, it won't be able to take the string tension. But the other thing is as well with the plastic weld, it does actually say on the bottle you should leave it 24 hours to properly cure. So maybe I shouldn't string this up yet. That's probably not the best thing to do, is it? But I'm not the most patient person. That's actually one reason I really like making relics. Because I'm not very patient and I often get dings and dents and scratches in things if I'm not being patient enough. So what I might do then is string this up and then loosen it overnight, just in case. I'm not putting much effort into stringing it properly either, because I'm pretty certain I'll be taking the neck off again. Well, I will be taking the neck off again when I paint the body, so I would like to keep the strings and maintain them. You know what I've been saying? I said earlier about tilting the neck slightly. Don't really have to. It's lined up really well. Right. What I'm going to do is just tune it up on my phone. Have I still got my tuning app on here? I've got the Boss Chromatic Tuner TU3 app. It's brilliant. But it doesn't work with the headphones in. Hold on. You can get weird feedback now. Oh, there we go. No, I can't do it. Ah, how annoying. Give me one moment. Right, I'm back. I'm going to try it now. Now, normally when I string guitars up, I then put a lot of tension on the strings, pull them to make sure they stay in tune. But like I said, it did say with the glue, you should leave it 24 hours, the weld. So because it said leave it, and because Ray's got me all paranoid about my print quality options, I feel like I shouldn't put too much effort on it now. Look at that. Right, hold on. Let's swap cameras. Here we go. I've just seen another thing, this cheap Paisley neck. The fret markers, one of them's sort of indented quite a way in. Never mind. So what I'm going to say now, Ray, you said you wanted to see how the neck setup is. So without measuring it, I would say the strings are a bit high, but my saddles are almost as high as they go. So I'm going to lower it slightly, but it seems pretty spot on to me. Everything else about it. Better than when I often make a guitar straight off. There's often a little bit of jiggling that needs to happen in the neck pocket. So let's just switch the camera back so you can see what I'm doing. So while I'm doing this, I'll tell you the story about the rats in our house. So I've heard some weird noises coming from the cavities in our house. Turns out we've got rats. They're coming through the sewer system. They're in our neighbour's house as well. And I'm just waiting to hear if they're from the neighbour before them. Our 3 houses all connected together. We had pest control come in to check it all. It just seems to be, they're coming in through the sewers. It's cold outside, it's warm in the house, they like it in the house. They've only got to put a valve in on the sewers and that will stop the rats coming in, but we just need to work out exactly how far down it's coming from. If it's the neighbours 2 doors away, they'll need it too. But anyway, the guy came in to check out the house, check out the roof, and he saw my Rebel bass, my bass guitar made out of Millennium Falcon hanging on the wall. Was really intrigued by it. Turns out he's a guitarist. Whether he want to buy a guitar, I don't know. He plays in a goth band. He gave me a flyer for his goth club that he runs locally as well. I haven't been to a goth club for many years, but yeah, it's quite funny. I like the idea that I might be going to a goth club in the new year that's run by the guy that's catching the rats in our house. I'll do one more tune up before we go. What's happening there? I haven't got my saddle straight, so they're vibrating a bit. So Ray was a bit dubious about this bridge. I mean, I would say I like this designer bridge, but this is a very cheap model. I don't even remember where it came from. I think I must have got it on Amazon or eBay. I don't think it came off of a guitar, but it possibly came off of a cheap guitar. I used to buy in lots of cheap guitars to do paint jobs on them. Let's do one more tune up, and I'll put some strap pins on. I won't bother doing that now. It's late. One more tune up, give it a strum. I'm not setting up the intonation properly at the moment because, like I said, I'm going to loosen the strings overnight to let everything cure. But it seems pretty solid to me. I don't know. I'm just reading Ray's message here. It says it won't let go in a spectacular fashion. As cool as it would be to see that happening, what would happen is it would just slowly, the string height would get higher and higher as the tension is pulling on the strings and warping the body essentially. So we'll see what happens. What I'll do is I'll set it up roughly now, then leave it a couple of days, do a proper setup on it, leave it over Christmas, play it over Christmas, and then come back to it and see, has this print quality worked okay? I'm also going to, in that time, print at a much higher quality for a guitar that potentially I will keep, as opposed to just muck around with as I am on this, the paint job, etc. So don't worry, everyone that's worrying about it, it doesn't matter. Right, let's all see this in action. And out of interest, so it's actually not too far off. And look, this has got loads of give on it at the moment, so I can easily intonate that. Lovely stuff. So there you go, an assembled 3D guitar. I can see the number of people viewing it has dropped dramatically as you were just literally watching me tune up strings. But thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate that. Tomorrow in the live chat, I'm going to talk more about how it worked and what the process was like. But everyone else there, that's going to be Ray from Tasmaniak Guitars, who designed this guitar. Owen from Entropia Guitars, who was there earlier. We're going to have Mark Terrace, who you will know has built 3D guitars from his channel. We've got Mr. Glenn's Pickups, who's been building his first 3D guitar, but has been printing things that are mainly jigs, I think, but maybe some stuff to do with his pickup making. There's me there as a bit of a novice to talk about it. I think that's everyone. Oh, Jack from JC Guitars, who does lots of CAD work, CNC work, milling, and also 3D printing. I'm going to do a proper deep dive into 3D printing. I'm the novice there, so I'm going to ask the novice questions. But until next time, thank you, Ray. This is awesome. I love it. And it's so bloody light. What I should do is weigh the body and then compare it to one that's printed at the proper settings that Ray's given me to see how different the weight is. But like I said, for now, I'm going to leave it, just see if it can handle the tension of these strings. Right, thank you everyone, and hopefully see a lot of you tomorrow.